Hey, this is Amir Hamza and this is review of my Nokia 6720. Before we go over the pros and cons of this phone, let's take a look at the specs. It has a 600 MHz processor with 128 MB of RAM, comes supplied with 1 GB of preloaded SD memory card. In other words, it has the same specs as the E52, the same GPS, but it lacks the Wi-Fi connectivity. So if you're looking for Wi-Fi, this model is not for you. However, this model is slightly cheaper than the E52, and of course there are some downsides to that as well, and surprisingly there are some upsides as well. So let's take a look at the physical characteristics of this phone. The whole phone is made out of plastic apart from the back cover, which is made out of steel. I can show you that. The battery is 1050 milliamp, so it is more than enough for your phone. At least it won't be low in any standard. At the front you have a 2.2-inch display with quattro VGA screen, a front facing camera for making the video calls, light sensing sensor, the earphone. Then you have the navigational key with that soft keys and the alphanumeric key. On the right side you have one of the stereo speakers, the volume rocker, the shutter button. On the back you have 5 megapixel autofocus camera with dual LED flash. These are not xenon. On the other side you have the other stereo sound speaker and the door that reveals the memory card and the micro SD slot for data transfer. And I must tell you that this socket can also be used to charge the phone, whereas the phone can be primarily charged using the proprietary Nokia port. With that you have a 3.5mm jack for plugging in any headphones of your liking. Okay, these are the characteristics. Now let's see the pros and cons of this design. And the better point of this is that if you look at the side, this side is slightly curved, which is supposedly make it more ergonomic. It does slightly make it ergonomic, but I won't say that this is the key feature of this phone. And after that you can also see the keypad is positioned right at the edge of the phone, which means these last keys can be a bit problematic, and handling the phone in one hand can cause some issues as well. And secondly, if you see, the buttons slightly move, which show the poor build quality of it. I won't say poor, but slightly less good compared to the E52. E52 has brilliant buttons. I found this button to be very unergonomic, and only for that reason I'm thinking about selling this phone, because it's very uncomfortable and I have to do a lot of texting in my daily routine. Apart from that, the outside is pretty good, however a bit heavy, and when you're making the call, because this surrounding is made out of plastic, there is some creeping and squeaking in the way. So when you're making call, it kinda ruins the whole experience. It constantly tells you that you have bought a cheaper model compared to the E52. However, the E52 doesn't have the brilliant 5 megapixel camera. Now let's jump into the software section. The software section is pretty much typical Symbian, but now it has 600 MHz processor, so the performance is very fast and very precise. And I have also enabled the animation onto this phone, so you can see that it has very beautiful transition when using the accelerometer, and the performance follows the same pattern throughout the mobile phone. So this isn't a slow mobile phone. If you're after a fast mobile phone, that is cheaper than the E52, looks a bit different than the E52 because the E52 looks very serious and it looks very grey. This looks a bit funkier, especially into this brown color. The software is same. I don't think I have to show you anything that is totally different into this phone. However, I found the gallery to be a bit slower. I don't know why is that, but you can definitely see the transition is a bit slower. Speaking of transition, the screen isn't as bright as the E52. However, it uses the same technology as the E52, but the screen is a bit darker, and in the sunlight you lose a bit of detail. But however, the screen is readable even in direct sunlight, so I won't call it completely a con for this phone. As far as the call quality goes, the speaker is good, but I found it to be a bit out of control at the highest volume setting. When you're making a call and if you have the highest volume setting, if the person on the other side speaks a bit louder, the sound gets out of control and it gives you that feel of cheap speaker. But that doesn't happen all the time. There are some times when this happens. Other than that, the performance is okay. Now it does have stereo speakers, but don't expect the sound quality to be equivalent to say Nokia 5800. It's quite low. And speaking of speakers, let's check out the music player. It has a typical music player that basically every Symbian mobile phone has. It's very easy to use and it is, well, I say it is okay, and the phone has excellent sound quality when you are plugging the headphones, but unfortunately the supplied headphones are just disappointing. But if you plug in your own headphones, you are expected to get same sound quality as the Nokia 5800 or indeed any Express music phone. So my verdict onto this phone: I bought this phone with a lot of expectation, and if you ask me, I say don't buy this phone. I am rather disappointed by this phone. It has very poor headphones. Well, you can replace that with your own, but the unergonomic keyboard is, well, it's enough to make me sell this phone even after 2 or 3 days of usage. And I'm going for the E52 because it has a lot more ergonomic design, and of course that phone has a lot more steel accent as well, because that increases the build quality and the overall feel of the mobile phone. On this phone it feels a bit cheap, and after using the Nokia 5800 for around 7 months, I am waiting for a phone with a good build quality rather than plastic all around. But if you're after a Symbian phone that is fast and not as expensive as the E52, then you may consider the 6720. But I would recommend trying this phone first and then buying it and strictly comparing it to the E52. The E52 doesn't have the camera as good as this phone, but if you're not after the camera and if you're after the operation, then I would suggest go for the E52. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, leave a comment and rate this video 5 stars if you like. This is Amir Hamza signing out.